Well, hey guys, I didn't hear you come into the Amiga Studio. I was just finishing up the final touches of my Workbench 1.3 custom icon set. I want to show you the icons I've created over the past couple of years, briefly show you how I put them together, and then at the end, show you how you can put them on your own Workbench 1.3 for the 2 or 3 people listening to my voice right now who still use good old blue. Now I know most folks out there are in 3.1 land or 3.1.4 or 3.1.4.1 or 3.9 or whatever, but there's still a couple of us, a small handful I know, that like to use old blue with their Amigas, especially the early Amigas like the 1000, the 500, the 2000. So come on into the Amiga Studio and let me show you around. Okay guys, so to begin with I want to show you the program I was using to create all of these icons in the first place, and it's this amazing Icon Master from 1989. There are a couple of applications available out on the internet that have this name. They are not all the same. The one that you're really wanting to look for is the one from 1989 by John Scheib out of Nevada. Let me just show you really quickly what it looks like. It doesn't look like much, but it is very powerful, and you can see right here 1989 John Scheib. Okay, now there's basically all these different types of drawers, tools, disks, projects, and trash icons that one can create. I only created 3 different types. The disk and the drawer were my main focus, and one tool, which I'll show in a little bit. So first, let's take a look at all of the various icons that I created that are in this release, which I'm calling the AmigaLove 1.3a release, just in case there's ever another one. I might want to do B or C or whatever. Alright, so the first is going to be the Amiga 2000 hard disk icon. And all of these have the exact same file name. They have to. And that's why I put each of them in their own individual folders. So there is the Amiga 2000. Pretty simple 2-state icon, but cool looking in its default state. Next is the Amiga 3000. Next, one of my favorites is Lemmings. After that, we're looking at System 1.3. After that is what we call the VCR hard drive. It was just really kind of inspired by Flash Gordon. Kind of wanted to make something that looked like it might have been on that show. That was the first one I ever did. Next is going to be the zip hard drive, which I use on my Amiga 1000 as its auto booting hard drive. And don't forget, we have the RAM disk too. Now these actually have their own unique names, but I went ahead and put them in their own folders anyway. I had some fun with this one. After terminals, tools. Everybody's got tools, come on. Maybe not the sharpest tools, but we have tools. After that, music. Yeah, a little jam box action. Doodly-doo. Okay. After music's gonna be, oh yeah, documents. What up, yo? Hello. Hello. Last but not least is games, which is a little Pac-Man action. Digging it. Those are all the main ones that everybody out there in the world typically have or has somewhere on their various partitions. And this one is very specific. Some of the programs that you installed a hard drive were never originally intended to be on a hard drive. They were for floppy disk only, but they still work fine on hard drives when you move them over there. And this is a terminal that I use called 64-door. There, and I made it look like a Commodore 64 chicken lips door, basically. Okay, those are the drawers. Okay guys, so what I want to do next is actually walk you through the program I used that made all these icons. A little bit of it comes from up here, not as much as you might think. Most of it comes from the program called Icon Master. Anybody can pick it up, anybody can learn it. It's really easy, it's awesome. I want to walk you through the basics so you might even be inspired to use it yourself. And then I'll show you at the end of this video of how to actually take the icons and apply them on top of the ones you already have in Workbench and flip them over. Okay guys, so this next section is all about Icon Master, a really brief overview of how it works, how you can create your own icons, how you can take the icons I've created and modify them to your own needs, to your own creative specs. This is a really brief overview. If you want more in depth, I have a completely separate video that's all about this tool. This is more the really quick flyby on how it all comes down. So when you load it, you can see right off the bat, it gives you these default tool icons. And as I mentioned before, there's 5 types. There's disk, drawer, which are your folders, tool, which is your programs, project, and trash. In my icon pack that I'm releasing, I'm only showing these 3. These are the only ones I focused on for now. And you really want to have this set when you get started. You'll notice when I pick these different ones, it gives me different default art to start with. Right, this is kind of cute. It's kind of weird actually. It's kind of a 2D side profile with the little foot lever for your can. In any case, let's start with the disk, because this is what at least half of the icons I made were disk drive icons. And you can click on this guy over here. You can't click on this guy over here. This is the secondary state. This is the primary state. And what you want to do is you want to go to Edit Image, Primary Image, and you're going to start with this. This is the beginning of your canvas, let's say. And you're given a couple of tools. This is your viewing pane over here on the left. This is going to be where you view the artwork really close up, which is very handy when you're trying to do pixel art. Down here is the actual size, right? This is what you would see on your desktop in normal resolution, in default resolution in OS 1.3. Now, you're probably thinking, well, so how do you create all those colors with your icons? I thought OS 1.3 and below only had 4 to choose from as a default. Well, it does. There's blue, there's white, there's black, and there's orange. Now, through alternating pixel colored tricks, you can create an additional 6 colors. You can create a baby blue, or a light gray, depending on how you look at it, a dark blue, sort of a tan khaki color, kind of a really weird green, a little hard to see, I know, for you guys, but on my screen this is like a very light, strange green, a yellowish color, and a kind of a reddish brown. Right? Well, let's take a look at that. How does that work? If I click on the baby blue, this is my pen. Right now it's set to blue, which is right here. If I click here, it's going to say my pen is set to white. Now it's set to black. If I click on baby blue, it's blue and white alternating. So in other words, let's take the line tool and just draw that across there. So that lower, it doesn't look like much when it's really big. But down below, now that almost casts a shadow. In fact, I probably would, in normal times, would take like a dark blue and go like that and really make it dark, right? Or maybe even cast a shadow below the whole thing, if this was the artwork I was trying to do, to make it feel like there's a shadow below it. But it's really just black and blue. I've not created any new colors, but your eye blends it together through an optical illusion to give you that shadow. Very, very cool stuff. It's Pixel Art 101, but a lot of us don't think that way or even create artwork that day in 2019. It's not very typical. Now, this little guy down here is the size of the icon clickable zone that you want your icon to have. You can click and drag it. It's even bigger than my viewable pane. I can zoom around here to get the whole thing. Now for me, I always make this in the same area as what I can see. I don't want to go scrolling around. That icon master icon that you saw at the very beginning, it was gigantic. It was probably like 2.5 screens in this view. Down here it would have been probably right up in there, right? All right, so let's really quickly jump through these different tools. I'm going to just wipe all of this out. Oops, let's go with blue. And just give us a completely clear window, right? Blank slate, tabula rasa, right? So the first tool is going to be Freeform. Let's start with white so you can easily see that. That's the Freeform drawing tool. Apparently, or some mountains. There's one level of undo right here, just like Deluxe Paint in the early days. You can only click undo once. So you have to kind of keep that in mind as you're going down some of these creative rabbit holes. There is an outline rectangular tool. Very handy. Why? Icons. They're usually squares or rectangles of some sort when you start off. And so this can kind of get you your basic shapes. There's also a circular one in the same way. This is a little hard to get used to, but you need to think in terms of the center of that circle, and then when you drag it around to create ellipses and whatnot. It takes a little getting used to, but it's handy. There's a clear screen, so this button right here just wipes everything out. A line tool, also extremely handy for icon work because they're usually rectangular to begin with, to start with, right? Clear. There's this fill rectangular tool, and then there's a fill circle tool. Those are the basic drawing tools you're going to use most of the time. And then ultimately, with some of the more complicated or sophisticated icons, you get this really cool icon here, which kind of a strange UI icon that they gave us. Kind of looks like the four corners that you might attach a postcard to a photo album or something like that. But in any case, what this is the Photoshop clone tool. Think of it like that. Except you get the really badass Starflight X and Y coordinate UI, right? So I just copied that corner, and that's what this box is. It might be a little easier if I create a more complex shape. So let's do some of this. And I'll do a box around it all to really make it obvious. There, it's almost like a backwards United States flag, kinda. We can even go further if we wanted to, because it's fun. Come on, I'm serious. This is really fun stuff. I hope some of you give this a shot, because you're going to be like, holy crap, I know what I'm going to do tonight. Because that's what I do. So there's like a really janky looking flag. All right, now watch. If I click the clone tool, which is right here, and I just use this little coordinate guy, and I select that corner. Well, there it is. And this sounds strange, but this is actually really handy with some of the more compound shapes you're going to work with. This is how I did Lemmings. After I drew one of the little guys, I used this tool to create two more really quickly before I decided to create a whole different animated looking character. Very, very handy. I don't use it all the time, but when I do, it's awesome. And then finally, you've got a text tool, which allows you to load up any kind of
font that you might have on your system and pick the different sizes that you have. It's not the most amazing UI for that kind of thing, but it does the job. And you can then start just typing away if you wanted to have some text that you don't want to create yourself. And those are the basic tools, guys. You've also got this little column right here for positioning in addition to these arrows. So the up arrow is going to push your icon up, the down arrow down, left, left, right, right. Get that all in there. Once you actually have this in the place that you want it, you're usually going to say done, if you think that's your final piece. And then you're going to say copy primary image to secondary. Boop. And now it's in both sides. And then what you do is you're going to say edit image, secondary image. Now I'm working on the clickable zone. Not the zone, but I'm now working on the click state of the icon, right? So let's say I just want to put orange all the way around it. Oops, I screwed that up, but whatever. Bob Ross screws up all the time, doesn't he? Come on, I'm not perfect. So I'm just going to put orange all the way around, just to make a demonstration here of what I'm talking about. And there. So now if you click this Show Alt M image, that's the primary, that's the click state, right? So if I say done, see what's happened there? It's that easy, it's that fast. All you have to do is just really focus on what it is you're trying to do. Look at it objectively, like you would in drawing class a million years ago, and just go for it. And make sure you're the right icon type right before you save. And then once you save, put that in a special place, because a lot of times the disk icons are all going to be called disk. You want to put those in their own little individual folders, unless you're really hardcore about it and just drop it right on top of an existing icon, which I would not recommend, because you might want to go back at some stage and revert. And so now let's talk about how you actually take the icons that I created, or the ones that you might create in the future, and drop them onto your own workbench. Assuming you know how to move files from modern PCs and Macintosh machines over to your Amiga machines, the next stage is to then use your Amiga to do the work, right? And I prefer, for me, Directory Opus, or Dopus, right? Don't we all love Dopus? I'm actually in the middle of Opus 4, Directory Opus 4. I just love this screen, this old school mechanical hard drive. In any case, on my left side is my work icon. That is this. Right now it looks like it looks close to the Amiga 3000 that I'm working with, right? That's the left side. On the right side is the actual AmigaLove 1.3a folder, and I've drilled down into drawers. But let's go up a stage. Right, let's go into icons. So here are the various icons. Now the thing about the disk icons that are really interesting, I had to put them into individual folders for you guys and for myself, because they're all named what? Disk info. All of them, all disk icons are named the same thing. And so as a result, you have to protect them inside their own little drawers or folders, right? Man, I wish this had a parent button. In any case, let's go back in there and let's go to Lemmings. So here's disk.info of the Lemmings icon. If I click on show in Directory Opus, just to make sure, yep, that's the one, that's Lemmings. Now, if I'm over on my work partition and I scroll down, here's disk.info. If I click on that and I hit show, that's my Amiga 3000 icon that I wanted. If you want to switch from one to the other, you take it And it probably should have an uppercase D here just to be consistent. But regardless, it's going to work. Let me just go ahead and do it. I can rename in here because this is Directory Opus is awesome. Rename. There, that's the same thing. If I take that, and this has already been saved as a disk tool, right, a disk icon, and I say copy, boop, it's going to say, wait a minute, we've already got one of those, and you're like, yes, I know you do, replace it. Now, you're not going to see, whoops, you're not going to see it immediately, but if I do a soft reboot, here she goes, A3000 1.3 booting, Captain. That's right. Engage number 1. Engage. There she is. In all of her effing glory, yo. Check it out. That's how easy it is.
In terms of the RAM disk icon, it is created like a hard disk icon from the tool type perspective. But the way that I applied mine on top of my pre-existing RAM disk was a different process. I did not use Directory Opus. I actually needed to go in and update my startup sequence. At least that's the way that I did it. There's probably an additional way to do this as well. But basically, this doesn't technically override it. It just says, go grab this other icon and use it and apply it to RAM disk instead. Sort of a non-destructive way to do it, rather than copying on top of, right? So you edit your startup sequence, and basically what you're going to do is you're going to look for, you're going to create a new line somewhere in the startup sequence, and you're going to say copy, and then you put the actual literal path. This is currently on my semi-auto booting zip drive on my Amiga 1000, which it thinks is a hard drive. It says copy this path, which leads to the RAM disk icon, and copy it to RAM, the RAM disk. That's all you have to do. Once you put that line in there just like this, it'll take the file that's on your drive, wherever you decided to copy it, and it'll lay it right on top of the RAM disk icon right whenever you boot your machine. And if you want to get rid of that, you just wipe this line out and your RAM disk comes right back, no big deal. That's all you have to do. Now these are drawers, so these are the documents, music, terminals, tools, etc. So what's interesting about this is that these are not all named the same thing. They're named whatever they're named. So documents is named documents, right? It's whatever your folder name is. So if you have a folder on your Amiga, and let's say it's called, I don't know, WordPerfect Docs or something like that, you can name this the same thing and write it on top of your other icon, and it'll take this one. It'll take this icon and move it on top of the other. You just override it using the same name. You go for it. It's that simple, you guys. With the tools, let's take a quick look at that. This is an extreme use case of a tool that most of you have probably never heard of, let alone ever used. This is one of the best terminal programs you can use if you want to stay true to the Petsky artwork that they are trying to display on your screen. You can still use ASCII if you want to, or ANSI, but if you're on an Amiga and you have the ability to portray Petsky, why not? 64-door will let you do that. And so I created the 64-door icon, which I mentioned earlier, because one didn't exist. It was expected that you were going to play this off of a floppy, but you can drag this onto your hard drive. And this is what really drives me bonkers. There were so many programs back in the day that did not create hard drive installable routines. It was total Wild West back then. And one of the best companies on the planet that wrote DOS and Amiga software, amongst other platforms, was SSI, right? And they created all of the Gold Box stuff, all of the D&D stuff, all the crap I have all over my walls, and all the boxes I totally cherish. Well, one of the last ones they did was Treasures of the Savage Frontier, and check it out. They didn't make an icon for it. They thought they were afraid to ship it to market
for hard drives as late as it was. It was like 1991 or something in that stage, somewhere in that ballpark. And they just have this little janky, I figured out how to put it onto a hard drive pretty quickly. It wasn't that big a deal, but you get nothing. You get no icon? Really? I mean, how old was Monkey Island at this point? Give me a break. So this is one I'm probably going to create an icon for using their own artwork and stick it in there, pull it in to Icon Master or Deluxe Paint, because it can create icons too, and pop it right in there. And for heaven's sakes, I know it's ancient, but don't you think it's time? I do. So guys, that's AmigaLove Icon Set 1.3a. I hope you enjoyed looking through those as much as I enjoyed making them, and I hope it inspires some of you to actually download these and use them on your own workbench back at home. Now, down below the video, there's going to be an article with download links, and I will try and add these to Aminet later if it's not a total pain in the ass. I would love to do that, so I'll give it a shot. In any case, if you like this video, there will be more on the way. Please ring that bell, yo, and go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already. Really appreciate you sticking around for the whole video, and we'll see you next time, guys. Take it easy. Bye-bye. AmigaLove.